So this is the video where you said, you clickbaited it with my face. And the title was, the title was Matti Haapoja ruined my life with, no, not my life, my career with three words.
3 words, yeah. Uh-huh.
We have Jake Frew in the house.
Hello.
Full-time van lifer, filmmaker, skateboarder. What other?
I'll take all of those titles. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Depiction of Jake Frew.
Yeah, I'm definitely not full time at any of those, but I'll take it.
Mountain biker.
Yep, mountain biker as well. Mm-hmm.
You do some great work.
Thank you.
Like really good YouTube videos. I would almost describe them as like they're almost like visual essays. That's how when I was thinking about it, I was like, yeah, what does Jake? Because you don't have like you're not in like the filmmaking sphere of YouTube. You're not really in the van life sphere, but you maybe a little bit are. But like you're everywhere, and like what ties you together, I think, are these like life lessons from Jake Frew, kind of, like visual essays.
So. Yeah.
Does that sound right at all?
I think so. Yeah. I guess it came as a result of never deciding what my channel was about. Mm-hmm. So it has turned into, just essays of things I care about.
Yeah.
And I've always been a pretty like introspective person in general. So it lends itself well to just like, I've been thinking about that a lot lately. I'll make a video about it. And
it's almost like cathartic to get it out then in like a video form and
totally.
Like put your thought out into the world now.
Totally, absolutely. Like my videos always start as just something I need to hear.
Yeah. So this video is for myself.
Yeah.
I feel like that's how a lot of us make videos. Like you learn something like, oh, well, other people probably are going through the same thing or want to know what I just learned or whatever. And then you make that video and put it out there, and lo and behold, there's a lot of other people that are dealing with the exact same thing as that you just learned,
Totally.
What got you, tell me your story. How did you get into YouTube? Like you're a pretty successful YouTuber now. I don't know do you call yourself a YouTuber? I always ask people.
I do.
Yeah, okay, that's cool. Okay,
yeah. With pride, actually.
Yeah,
I think it's cool.
Heck yeah. I think that's cool. How did you get into it? What were the steps that like brought you to that place?
Yeah. Man, you want the full version?
I want it all. This is a podcast, so we have time.
Yeah, it's so funny because I've always loved video and made videos for fun. Like my dad was always dad cam guy, and I would love borrowing his camera with my brother. We would make skate videos were our first thing ever. Yep. Then we make little goofy skits and stuff like that. So I've always loved video. But then I studied mechanical engineering in college and was a mechanical engineer for like, I don't know why, just because.
Is that you just felt like you needed to do that, or did you like it, or what was the?
I was a kid, like, when we're in high school, like who the heck knows what they want to do?
Nobody knows.
So I was like, I'm good at math and I'm 18 years old and I have to choose a degree because that's what everyone around me is telling me. Go to college, get a degree. I was good at math. I liked building Legos and stuff. So I was like, all right, mechanical engineering.
Math plus Lego. Yeah.
And I think I've always been like once I start something, it's so hard for me to not finish it.
Yeah.
So once I got a year into mechanical engineering, I was like, oh, I may as well finish it.
Yeah. I'm in it now, so I'm going to finish it. And then you worked as a mechanical engineer?
Yeah, I worked as a mechanical engineer for like 5 years. And then was just like watching YouTube, and this dude came up named Matti Haapoja.
Who dat? Is this an act? Are you just like because you're here at the office, you're just being nice? Is this,
dude? Dead serious.
That's so funny.
Like that was the catalyst, and I can remember the exact video too because you brought up Ira Glass's speech about the creative gap.
Yeah.
And so the combination of Ira Glass's speech, with which if people haven't seen it, it's like he talks about you like have taste
Yeah.
and you know what you like.
Yeah.
And then you try to make something and it looks nothing like what you like.
Absolute trash.
Yeah. So that's usually when people quit. They're like, well, I'm not good at it, so
Yeah.
I'm going to quit. And so in your video, you built off that, and that's when I first heard Learn, Make, Repeat.
So this is the video where you said you clickbaited it with my face, and the title was
It was
Matti Haapoja ruined my life with not my life, my carear with three words.
Yeah.
Learn, make, repeat. Right?
Yeah, that was my best clickbait by far so far.
You played the game. It's good.
Yeah, definitely.
Did that video do well? Did it bomb?
It did really well.
Oh,
No,
nice.
it was definitely 1 of 10 when I posted
Oh,
it.
sick.
Yeah, it did really well. And I got some people upset with the clickbait,
Yeah.
but mostly people just stoked.
I think that's a good strategy where you have to play the game on YouTube, hit them with the clickbait, not over the top, but good clickbait. And then you hit them with what they actually need. The clickbait is kind of like what they want, and then the video is like what they actually need. You know, get their attention, but then leave them with something good. You know,
Yeah, especially when it's mostly true, because that video was about how eventually me seeing that video that you made over the long term led to me ending my career in mechanical engineering and starting a career in video.
Yeah. So I like that's been my I don't even know when I like realized it, but that's been my motto for so long. It's like, if you want to do anything in life, all you have to do is just learn, make, repeat. You learn something and then you try it out and then you repeat that process over and over again. And just like Ira Glass in that speech, like the first stuff you make is absolute garbage. But then, you learn from it, and the next thing's a little bit better, and the next thing's a little bit better, the next thing, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I kind of know what I'm doing with this stuff, you know? And that across the board, you want to be a skateboarder, like that's how it happens. And it's really hard because, life isn't like a video game where you're like, oh, I just leveled up, you know? I just made a YouTube video and I just leveled up, you know, there's no nobody's telling you just got more XP points, you know, to level up and become a better whatever, you know?
Yeah. And I feel like we so naturally all want to be like the prodigy or the person that's just naturally good at it. And that's so extremely rare, if not non-existent entirely.
Pretty much.
Yeah. We want to be natural at it, but then I don't know. It was so easy for me at the time to just not believe in myself.
Yeah,
that would actually work for me. You know, that process.
Did you think it was snake oil when you heard it? You're like, oh, this is like trash, or like, and then you tried it anyways. You're like, well, I don't have anything to lose, so I'm gonna try it.
It's funny. You say I don't have anything to lose, so I may as well try it. That time that I saw your video also paired with like the lowest point in my life personally. Like there was just so many factors around me all combined into this like the darkest time of my life by far.
Yeah.
And so it is interesting how much that worked in my favor, because it did give me I have nothing to lose mentality. I was like, I'm at my lowest right now. I have to change something. I got to do something. And seeing your video is like, this is what I got to do. I got to just start and see where it goes.
And was the thought process, I'm going to try filmmaking, or what was the thing that you were going to like try out then?
Yeah, it was filmmaking, because I loved like particularly just like beautiful visuals, you know, like kind of the cinematography side of filmmaking. And so at that time I was like, dude, if I could get someone to pay me to film a wedding, that would be the coolest thing in the world. I was like, that sounds impossible, but man, if I could get paid for a wedding video, that'd be nuts. So like at that time, like that was the goal, you know? And eventually I was camping with some friends, and they were like, we're getting married. Our videographer canceled on us. Like, would you do it? It's like next week.
You're like, I'm going to have to think about it. I'm going to have to check the calendar first. And,
So.
And then that was the first, is that the first like paid gig you did or?
Yeah. And I didn't even charge him because I had
first
never done
paid
one.
non-paid gig.
First official gig.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then it just kept going from there then? You started doing more?
Kept going from there. Like I did another wedding from someone that was in the audience at that wedding.
Yeah.
And then another person that was in the audience had a company making like baby clothing and products. And I made videos for them.
Yeah.
And continued to snowball.
That's like the learn, make, repeat thing sounds so simple, but that's literally all it is. And as you're doing that, just like you just told us, like you end up making something that other people see and they're like, oh, that's nice. And then the next time they have, a video need, they're like, oh, I know a guy. And then they ask you to do that video. And then more people see it and like, oh, that was pretty good. And then it's in their brain again. Like, oh, I have a wedding coming. I have, and then all of a sudden, and people always want to jump the gun to like, how do I get more work as a filmmaker? It's like, well, that part's easy. The hard part is actually getting good at the learn, make, repeat every single day, learning something, making something, and doing that over and over again intentionally to the point that you're actually making something good. That's the hard part.
Totally.
Getting the jobs, money is like easy once you figured out the first part.
Yeah. Yeah. And it made it so nice for me having at first my mechanical engineering job, and then eventually I got a marketing job. Like having that exist while I was able to just make videos completely for fun as practice made it ideal, because then there wasn't even the pressure to find paying gigs. Yeah. It was purely just, I love this. I want to get good at it. Yeah. So I'm going to do it.
That I mentioned this to you earlier, but I'm going to say it on the podcast too. Like whenever somebody starts YouTube with the purpose of fame, money, anything like that, like I'm going to do this as my career, it rarely works out. Whereas all of the best channels are just like, I was just really into this thing and I didn't even realize it could become. And like you said, like my big goal was to shoot a wedding. And like, yeah, at the time that was your big goal. And then the goal changes and you end up somewhere that's like totally different. And it's the same thing with YouTube. You make one video just because you were into the thing. And then all of a sudden, you have 1 million subscribers. You're like, what the heck? That doesn't even make sense, Like,
dude, yeah. I'm sitting here right now on Matti Haapoja's podcast, which it's such a weird full circle moment. I feel like I'm having an out of body experience right now. Because this is one of those things that, like, if you would have told me when I started my YouTube channel that the guy whose video I watched that got me to start, I'd be on a podcast with him, I'd be like, yeah, that's funny. But no.
And then what you don't even realize is 5 years from now, you're going to be doing a podcast, your own podcast, your own channel, whatever. And you're going to be talking to some kid who's like, 5 years ago, I watched your video and like, that's what got me, that's what saved my life and turned it around and got me into this thing. And to you, you're like, you just feel like a normal person. That's the oddest part about YouTube is because it's all on the computer. You don't see, you're not playing your video to an audience, like, a stadium full of people, which is how many people are seeing your video, but you're not in the stadium watching all these people watch. And so there's this weird, like, are there people like, are these just numbers? And then you start meetings like, oh, people like my videos. Like these are actual real people, like you're saying all this. It's still like, I'm half like, I think he's just like embellishing this. I think he's like allowed, like this isn't full, like, he's just saying it to be nice. This isn't actually, like, I don't think my videos, maybe it's also that I don't feel overly proud about any single video on my channel. I can't, if you were like, what's your favorite video? What's the one video, if you had to show somebody like who you are, like your skills, I'd be like, I don't know. Like, I don't like any of them in the sense that like, they're just YouTube videos, but the overall, like the channel is like a documentary of my last 4 or 5 years. Yeah. And that I'm super proud of.
Yeah.
You know?
And that has to be, I mean, I think that is such a good indicator of how dedicated to consistency you have been, because any one of those videos that you've made, you could easily have made better and been like, if I have another week to work on this.
Yeah.
Because I find myself doing that all the time. Like, you push back deadlines because you're like, I can make it a little better. Let me wait a couple more days till I do that. And you start to, it's like definitely I don't know, I was an engineer, I don't remember the type of graph, but it tapers off. Like tapers off and how much the extra work is actually worth it.
How much is actual, like the results change at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But I will say, your videos are incredible. And
Thank
like
you.
they're like a mix of like a Matt Diavella and then like, you know, a vlogger. It's like a very interesting, not too many people I don't think do what you do. But like you can tell that you're putting in a lot of effort. Like it's really good. And I think like for me, sometimes I watch your videos, I'm like, man, I should be putting in, you know, a full week into one video. Whereas usually I'm putting in like a couple of days at most into one video. But then at the same time, I like having that little box to work in, be creative, and then like get it out there and not be worrying about that one video too long and just like move on to the next thing, you know, not be too not too precious about the idea, you know. If you get too precious with the idea, then you're like, oh, I have to make this, like, you know, I have to make this crazy because I'll never have a better idea than this, you know.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's such a balance between like my sanity and consistency, and I don't know, because man, it feels like, I mean, there are a couple videos that I felt like I've been able to just crank out, but for the most part, I just feel like I'm pouring every ounce of me possible into it. And I'm like exhausted by the end of it, and it's just like, it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't feel sustainable. But what's it been now, like 4-5 years that I've had a channel, and I'm still just as stoked to like every time I get a new idea. So,
but you're literally making your own TV show by yourself. Like you don't even have any employees, right? Yeah, so you're making a TV show by yourself. That's way better than most TV shows have been in the past, you know?
Man.
Like that's how you gotta, like that's the perspective that you have to put on it. And like, yeah, of course you're gonna, you know, feel tired after doing what a crew of people would do together, one, you know, all doing one little piece. You're just like, oh, I just do that whole thing by myself. In a shorter amount of time, probably too.
It is really special the amount of different skills you learn just from having a YouTube channel. It's pretty cool. Yeah,
I always say like people so often ask me like, should I start a YouTube channel? I'm like, my answer is always yes, no matter what, because you learn so many different skills. Even if the YouTube channel thing doesn't work out, you learn how to talk to a camera, how to film, how to edit, how to tell stories, how to write things, like how to talk to brands possibly. There's so many different things that you're learning about marketing, all of this stuff that you would never have known if you're just like sitting in class in school or something like that.
Man, totally. Even if the channel doesn't become anything or do anything, I think it's so worth it regardless for that exact thing. Even just like networking, like the amount of people I've met purely because of YouTube is wild. And it's good because I'm so like introverted and withdrawn that like, man, if it weren't for YouTube and I was doing a road trip through Toronto and New York City, I'd just be alone the whole time. Like, oh, this is cool.
It'd still be fun, I'm sure.
For sure.
I always say the best part about YouTube by far are the people and the experiences. By far. Like, it's nice to have money or whatever, but man, the people that you meet and those experiences that you have with those people is like, that is, you know, before I was freelance filmmaking, I would film other people having these interactions, you know, meeting each other and doing experiences and stuff like that. But I would just be the camera guy kind of watching from the outside. And then all of a sudden you get to be the one who actually experiences and gets to meet people and all that. Like that's incredible, you know?
Yeah, man. And to have that, That's such another like special thing, just to have that backlog of memories on your own channel that are it's like become my own form of journaling.
Yep.
And it's so exciting just have that record of like all these different memories across time.
Totally. And that's what I mean about like, I'm proud of the channel.
Yeah.
Like I watch
The
back and
journey
like,
of it.
like that's such a sweet, even seeing my kids in some of the videos, or just my like, that's when I met Peter, or like, like there's all these like fun things that like will now forever be there, and I can watch them back. Actually, there's a book, I think it's called Die with Zero, I think it's the book. So I'm by default, I'm the type of person who like, I just don't spend money usually. I just like save and invest, like keep doing that. But there's a book I read called Die with Zero, and they're talking about how like eventually you have to start using your money, for example. Like it's way more like dying with $1 million in the bank account, or dying used that $1 million for actual experiences and like doing things in life. And one of the things he was talking about in there is that at the end of our lives, like, what are you going to be more pumped about? Having a bunch of money in your account, or having all these memories that you can now like kind of like reminisce and live off of? And I think he called them memory dividends. And that really spoke to me, as like, oh yeah, like I gotta like meet people, experience things, and those are the things that I'm gonna look back on when I'm 70, 80 years old, and just be like pumped that like, be able to tell those stories. And I think that's why a lot of like my grandpa, grandma, they tell these stories of like what happened back in the day. They don't really talk about what I did this week so much. They're like, they start right away reminiscing about like this experience or that experience. Those are those memory dividends like coming out, and they're like almost reliving them as they're telling them,
Yeah, totally.
Gotta spend that money.
Yeah.
Within reason.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's like so much of the van life stuff gets clouded by silly social media things, but that's like that's the original thing that makes van life so exciting. It's that trade-off of like okay, I'm going to invest in experiences, and I'm going to sacrifice some comfort, and I'm going to sacrifice some social norms, but I'm going to be able to go on this adventure and have memories.
Yeah. How is that the first video that really popped off was about van life, or what was your first video that like really took off?
Yeah, my van tour was the first video that really popped off. And now, so that was the first one to pop off. And then I think the next video that did really well was like a how to film yourself video, which has surpassed the van tour and become like the biggest video. But
how did you get into the van life? Like what made you like, was that just a part of like, I'm going to change everything up, I'm going to also like, live in a van?
Part of that. Yeah, totally. It was part of the personal life crisis, but it also paired with the desire to start filmmaking and make wedding videos, because I was like, man, if I had this van and I had a computer in there and all the filmmaking gear I needed, if someone, I live in Colorado, if someone has a wedding in Utah or Wyoming or wherever, I can just drive, I can stay for cheap at the wedding, I can do the wedding video. So it started as like a financial move, really, to try to get
a mobile studio. Go anywhere you want.
Yeah,
that's sick.
Exactly. So, and I've just always loved like tiny homes and minimalism and that idea of like making more with as little as possible.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm sure I've said it on my channel before. Like when I was younger, I actually thought it was dumb to use money on like traveling and stuff.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, like when I was younger, in my brain I was like, I would way rather spend money on like a laptop or something that I'm gonna like get value out of for a year or 2 years or many years or whatever, versus just going on a trip and a week and spending the same amount of money.
Yeah.
And now I'm just like, oh, you were so dumb. Like, now my brain is completely the reverse. Like maybe it's like looking around, like I have just way too much like gear and stuff that it almost like stresses me out that I have this stuff.
Yeah.
Having more cameras doesn't change my life at all. If anything, it just brings misery in that like now I have to like care about these cameras and make sure they're not like getting beat up or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm actually using them. And then I have like, like cinema cameras that aren't being used to their full potential at all. And it's like, that just stresses me out. Whereas spending money on experiences, I never ever regret it. Never once. And I'm like, oh, I should watch out how much money I spend on experiences or on like travel or something like that. Like, never once do I regret it.
Seriously, there's so many like cliches wrapped up in that anything I say feels cheesy, but it's all just because it's true.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just because it's like, it's so like undeniably true that like when you say like once you get the stuff, like you realize that's not the thing that's gonna make you happy.
Yeah, there's like is it a Biggie or whoever said like more money, more problems kind of thing, like, and that's sort of true, but it's only like I think it's only really true is because people end up buying a bunch of stuff. Yeah, and the stuff is the problem, like excess stuff.
Yeah.
It's just every single thing you buy has a cost, not just like money cost, but also in terms of like your headspace. How much do you have to maintain it? Do you have to like, even just like you can buy something fun like a one wheel and then you don't have time to use it. And that stresses you out because I bought this one wheel and I gotta ride it, right? And like that can start stressing you out. If you buy like, if you have a yacht, a Ferrari, this and that, and you spend a lot of money and then you don't have time to use them, like that's like the ultimate hell on earth. Like, like you have all these things and you're just stressed out because you have too many things.
Seriously.
Yeah. But the money is not necessary. It can be used in like, you can do a lot of good with money and stuff. Money is not necessarily the problem.
It's just how you weigh ourselves down with all of the all of the mess we get ourselves into with
this is turning into like a Matt Diavella minimalist podcast.
Yeah.
Sell everything. I go back and forth. Like, do I want to just like, kind of just like quit everything, just do like bare minimum and live out in the country and just live like a quiet life? And then I'm like, I don't know. At the same time, like I really like what I do right now. Like, am I just going to get really bored? Doing like the quiet life?
Yeah.
Do you feel that ever as like a van lifer? Because you're probably experiencing kind of both.
Yeah, the quiet life terrifies me.
Yeah.
Like it's funny because I think most people that do van life do the like national parks, get out into the wilderness. And I do that for sure, but not at extended periods of time. Like I have to be parked in cities. And I think, I don't know, maybe it's just because I am like alone for so much of my work and my personal time that it kind of freaks me out to isolate myself even more. Yeah. So yeah, I'm kind of like, I have no desire to live in a cabin in the woods. I want to be like amongst a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, there's just something for me like the peacefulness of it. Like YouTube life gets hectic really easily, really fast. It's like goes in these waves of like, oh, like everything's pretty chill right now. And then all of a sudden it's just like, oh, I have a million things to do. And I hate that feeling of like, I have a million things to do all the time.
Yeah.
And so then I'm like, oh, is the like, and that's probably like a bad thing how the brain like swings on the pendulum of like, you got to go either full on quiet life or full on I'm working hard and doing everything I can,
Yeah.
Why not just go somewhere in the middle?
Yeah. For me personally, I've almost had to recognize a like seasonal swing because for me, my summers is when I'm doing client work, which is like traveling all over Europe. It's a ton of videos and it feels so hectic and chaotic and I'm worn out by the end of it. And then I don't want to do it anymore. And I get home in the winter and everything slows down. I'm alone more often. And I see this swing of like when I'm alone and everything's slower, I'm missing the fast pace of the summer, and then vice versa, obviously. But then it feels so much better when I just recognize like these are seasonal swings. Like this is crazy season.
It's not permanent.
This is chill season.
Yeah.
You're gonna wish for the other one anytime you're in the other.
So how many, like, you do YouTube, but that's not necessarily your full-time thing. You also do mountain bike.
Yeah. So technically all I do is YouTube, because the mountain bike videos I do are YouTube videos for Fox Suspension's channel.
Right.
So I'm making YouTube videos for them, and it's covering the Mountain Bike World Cup. And we're essentially making like daily vlogs, basically. Like
every day?
Behind the scenes. Yeah. Every day of a race week. So it'll be 7 videos in a week for the race week.
That's hardcore.
Yeah. And sometimes there's 2 races in a row, so it'll be like 14 videos in a row.
14 days straight. I was going to say, have you tried daily? But I guess you're doing daily for that. I tried doing daily, and after 26 days, I was like, I know where this goes, and I don't like it. Like, your whole life, your whole mind gets consumed by this. Like, you're constantly thinking, what am I filming today? And does this fit for the vlog? And then also you're thinking like, what am I doing the next day? And like, you know, like, oh, if you're hanging out with this friend, oh, like, does that fit for a video? Or like, what's the video? Like, and you start doing all these things that aren't natural and aren't probably the best thing for your social relationships and stuff, because this vlog or video ends up becoming almost, I wouldn't say it's more important, but it becomes very, very important that like everything kind of has to fit that, or else it doesn't work, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't do it then, you know?
Yeah, man, that's so interesting, because I remember watching your channel when you were doing daily. You said it was only 26 days.
I think it's 26 days.
For some reason it felt like
it felt long.
like you were doing it for a while. But yeah, it's so fun to watch as a viewer, because you 100%. Get such an attachment, because you're seeing so much of them so consistently.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like it comes at a cost.
Huge cost. I don't understand how like the daily vloggers, the Casey Neistats and those guys, how they did it for so long. Like,
me neither.
Absolutely.
Especially
nuts.
with him like starting a full company, like a completely separate company while doing it. I cannot fathom doing that.
Yeah. I mean, something has to give at that point. It's nuts. But it is also very addicting. It's also very fun, and like you start kind of like craving, like, oh, I want to do that again, because it's really exciting every day to be making something and then hit that upload button, see the comments, see that, you know, people are watching. Yeah. I'm gonna start a daily vlog. No, I'm just kidding.
Gosh. Yeah, I did. I think the closest I ever got to daily, I tried like a month on YouTube, and then I failed at it. But for a while I was doing the Jesse Driftwood style stories, because I saw him doing that and saw that as an awesome way to be practicing video. So I started doing those daily for quite a while. And I attribute that to being like one of the biggest learning experiences of my life, because it's such a tangible way to follow, learn, make, repeat, because you don't have to make this whole polished end product. You're just
make something,
practicing video skills and making something. But if it's not like a complete product, you're like, well, whatever, it's an Instagram story. So
yeah, it really does. Like, if you want to get good at YouTube storytelling stuff, like daily vlogging is an incredible way. Like, you start seeing things in a totally different way. The storylines that you can build, and I can take it this way, I can go that way. There's nothing better. I'm curious, like you and Jesse were doing those short little like vlog. Like, have you thought at all? I've been thinking about this. Have you thought about doing now for like Reels and TikTok and Shorts, like short form, you know, vlogs or whatever? Because now is like the time. Everything grows on short form video right now. Like,
I think about it all the time, because it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And I was making a version of that back when I was doing it on Instagram stories, but I don't know why I just have like a mental block with making that type of content currently, which I'm sure it's just overthinking it. I think it's nothing more than overthinking it. I've gotten so used to making YouTube videos, which I also overthink.
Yeah.
That when I have to make a short, that should be freeing.
Yeah.
But I overthink it and then I just don't make them.
Yeah. It is really weird. I've been literally thinking about this for like months that I should, because like if you think about like efficiency, you can make one piece of content and 3 platforms grow based on that right now. And the best, like it hits the best way for all 3.
Man.
Like it should be a no-brainer, but then at the same time, like, I don't know, I just like making my normal videos right now. Like, I have to figure out now a different format. It's like, I don't know.
Well, and what do you think about, I feel like I get people or brands reaching out to me saying, we'll repurpose your YouTube content and make it into shorts and reels and TikToks. And I've never loved the idea of that. Like, would you want to repurpose stuff or make something completely separate for shorts?
I don't think so. The way I describe that is like a dumping ground. A lot of people treat YouTube or any social media like a dumping ground. Like, you know, you have a company and they make videos already for their company and then they just like kind of like dump it onto YouTube, but it's not made for YouTube. And so those videos never do well.
Yeah.
And I think you could probably have some short form content like that. It would still do fine, but I think you still need to be a little bit more purposeful. Like even there's just little hacks, like making it a perfect loop. And so like, you know, you don't know when the video finishes and ends. And so then people end up watching 1.5 times, 1.25 times. And that's better for your stats on it. So then, you know, that video, that short form video does better. So I don't think dumping ground strategy works with anything. Also, I don't like, I don't know if this is just a personal thing or I'm just like super picky, but I'm not a huge fan of seeing like an influencer, YouTuber, whoever on like a brand's account as a sponsored post, you know, when you're like just like scrolling through and all of a sudden like I see Jake Frew and it's like they're making a, you know, some company is using you, but it's a sponsored post. Yeah. Right away, my brain is like, oh, that wasn't good for Jake's brand. Yeah. That's the way my brain works. And I don't know if I'm picky, I'm like overly like whatever sensitive to that. But right away, it feels a little bit like if it would have been on your account and just a normal, I'd be like, oh, cool, Jake's posting them. But for some reason, when it's the brand and then it says sponsored and it's being forced into my feed, there's something about it that I'm just like, I don't like this.
Totally.
And then it makes me think less of your brand, you know, not you as a person, but your brand. I'm like, oh, that wasn't the best for his brand. Yeah, you know?
Man, I do not envy the position of being like a social media manager for a brand.
Oh yeah,
because I feel the same. I feel like just brands in general seen on social media, I just lose interest immediately when it's a brand. Yeah. And when it's a person, I'm interested. And you're right, the sponsored thing just entangles that. Like crosses a circuit that shouldn't be crossed. Yeah. It's like, wait, what?
I thought this guy was cool. You know, it's like it's so childish and stupid, but at the same time, that's just how my brain works. And I assume if my brain works like that, then other people's brain are also doing the same thing. Subconsciously or consciously, they're thinking the same thing, you know.
But then the same thing doesn't happen in your brain if there's like it's like my YouTube channel and there's an ad break or something like that.
There could be. I think like with any sort of monetization, there's a wrong way and a right way of doing it. And so like if I, you know, in my video, all of a sudden there was like an ad for like, what's it, like, you know, like a hockey team or something like that. I don't play hockey. I don't go watch hockey. Like, yeah, I appreciate it, but like, I'm not a huge, like, I'm not that type of fan. I don't talk about it on my channel. Yeah. And so it's like, why is this guy talking about? And so like that might like bring down my brand. But I think, it is definitely like, okay, we all, you know, this is still a job for us also. So we need to make money. And so, but then there's also ways to figure out how to do brand deals where it does feel like a win-win. It's a win for the creator and a win for the audience. And it just usually takes a little bit more effort. And sometimes we don't have that time to put in that effort. And like, you know, audience doesn't understand that part. And then sometimes you have more time to like, hey, this company made this trip possible or made this thing that we're about to do possible. Without them, you know, we couldn't. So for example, I'm executive producing Danny Gewurtz's feature film, Itis.
Nice.
I think I'm sick. And we're going to get sponsors to sponsor our videos showing some of the behind the scenes and stuff of making it, but not sponsoring the actual film. So like nobody has say in the film.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's like this brand now gets to make, you know, is helping us create this thing like that's never really been done before.
Yeah.
And so like that's cool. I think that's a good way of like, that's a win-win. The brand looks good, I look good, audience loves it, you know. Are we running out of battery, boys? We're still good? Okay. Yeah, so like that I think is like a win-win-win, you know, the brand wins, I win, and audience wins. And then sometimes it's just the brand wins and like you have a terrible time making the brand deal and the audience hates it too. And then sometimes it's just you win, like you might do a bad job and the brand doesn't really get much and the audience doesn't get much, you know.
Totally. Like, that's such an exciting project, Danny's film. Man,
yeah.
Because there's always that like, I don't know, that artist mindset of exactly what we're talking about, entangling the sponsorships and all that. And so I'm so excited about this project because it's just like going to be Danny like leading this work of art.
Yeah.
And then, the way you're incorporating like the Kickstarter and the funding through the sides, like that's
and then
awesome.
During the premieres, once it's all done and like showing and hanging out with people is like, yeah, I mean, Danny is like, I always say he's the best filmmaker on YouTube. I don't know if that's an exaggeration or not, but I think he is. He's insane. He's and I've read the script and just he's put so much of like his own experiences in life and like just the skill he has. I know it's gonna be really, it's gonna be good. But at the same time, like I've said this to Danny, like even if it bombs, it's still great. Like, that's the best part about YouTube. Like you go after something and it succeeds and it's great. You go after something and you fail. And that's good content too. That's also really interesting to watch, and there's something to learn from that. You know?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's a lesson that I need beaten to my head every day.
I on purpose, like, you know, if like I understand now why Casey Neistat, for example, would leave like the camera falling in. It's like, that's part of like, sometimes that happens. And like, and you kind of want people to realize like, oh yeah, it's just a guy with a camera. Like there's no like big team coming up with this stuff. It's just like, hey, I saw this electric surfboard thing. I think I'm gonna order one. And then you order it, and then you're like, I don't know how to ride this. You're like, oh yeah, let's try it. Like, but meanwhile, we're talking about some camera or something at the same time. But like, you know, like, it's just whatever you want, you go for it. And then sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't.
Which is such a good reminder for us in the like filmmaking niche of YouTube, where like maybe you have a tendency to want things to be as polished and perfect as possible, but like that's not the platform that we're making for. And it can't be a coincidence that like my best performing video on YouTube starts with me like trying to say the title of the video and then messing up the title of the video, and it just like it starts with just a mistake, basically.
Well, it's the like you look at we watch any movie, right? And there's always any good movie will right away show some sort of weakness in the main character, right? There's something that they're struggling with, they're going through a hard thing, there's something that's like a weakness, and that right away makes us relate to that person. If they were just perfect the whole way through, you would be so bored in that movie. Because you're not relating to that person at all. And it's the same thing with these little things in the YouTube videos. Like I fly my FPV drone and I crash it, and I could make it look like I've just like had a sick flight and like, but I just crashed it. And so I'm like, okay, like let's try to find this FPV drone now. Like, or like, oh man, like, and I feel terrible. I'm like picking up the FPV drone out of the water. And I'm like, oh, that sucks. Like,
and like, sometimes it's hard to remember to film that.
You're so bummed. Yeah, it is funny how you like. There's like a reaction to just turn off the camera when something bad happens.
I messed up. I gotta stop the video. Yeah,
but that's the good stuff. You know?
It makes for good content, and it also has like it's just been the most powerful mechanism or coping mechanism, whatever, in my life is that reminder that like the characters in movies and shows that we love so much, we love because we see their whole journey of going through garbage and making mistakes, and like being able to take a step back from your own life and see that and be like, yeah, you're going through some garbage right now, but like that's a good thing. Like you're gonna be more interesting and come out better because of it.
Yeah.
Like, it's powerful to remember.
Yeah, but it is really tempting too as you get bigger to like become more polished. I think you mentioned like, become more polished and like make it super clean and like make sure everything's perfect.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, like I just crave those like raw vlogs from back in the day. Like I don't want another, you know, Mr. Beast type video where it's just like constant, like, it's playing on my brain, you know, that like, I'm curious what happens, but at the end of the day, I would much more like there's no like channels even that I watch where I'm like I feel like a real connection with that person. Yeah. Because the style of pretty much everybody's content has changed because of what YouTube is now. Yeah. And not any one person's fault, or that it's just like this is what works on YouTube right now, and if you want to have any views, you kind of have to play this game right now. This is the algorithm. We're not anymore in the the vlogging days where as long as you posted often and a long video, you were golden, and like now you have to like worry a lot about the thumbnail and title and like you have to retain people's like attention like for as much as possible. Like it's a different game now.
And you were just before we were recording, you were asking me what channels I watch. I like couldn't think of any, and I think it's for that reason. I don't so much follow through my subscriptions anymore as much as I watch whatever piques my interest on the recommended page.
I think also my theory is that COVID has kind of messed with that too, because a lot of the fun was seeing like, a YouTuber that you like, and then they go and hang out with another YouTuber and you're like, oh, this guy's cool. Or like you start getting to know their friends and like they're traveling and doing. And now everybody's just kind of been in their home place and that's it. Like this kind of stuff, it didn't happen for a long time. And then now I've been like, I was in Saudi Arabia and I met all these people and like, I'm going this and like, that's the fun stuff, right? And then it shows on the videos too. And people are like, oh, I never thought I would see Chunks and Philly on, like, I don't know if you know, I didn't know who they were. There's like these big YouTubers from UK and everybody's like commenting about like, wow, weirdest like crossover ever. And like, that's the fun stuff, like.
Totally. That's exactly why I made this collab bucket list. That's the reason that I'm here, added you to that list. Cause my channel really kind of started growing the most just in 2020. And so I've always wanted this so bad.
You're like a pandemic YouTuber.
Came of age during the pandemic.
Yeah, that's right. It was like right. I think it was right in the beginning of the pandemic is when I really like started to see your videos. And that was around the time when you, or like right before pandemic, and right when you made that.
I think it was during lockdowns that I made the Matti Ruined My Career video.
Oh man, when I first saw that, I was like, oh shoot, like is this like another like troll making like videos about me? But I was like, oh no, this is like a good one. Like, oh nice, thanks.
Oh good.
Anyways, do you want to go and do some one wheeling now, and we'll film your video?
Yes, check that.
All right, everybody's gotta go and check the video that Jake films from this trip. It'll probably be way better than I've ever made anything on my channel.
Get out of here, sensei.
All right, thanks guys for listening.